The galactic hearing room was brighter than anything Davian Reese had seen before. Its walls were made of glass-like panels, showing stars moving slowly behind them. Hundreds of seats filled the circular chamber. Leaders from many alien worlds, human colonies, and major organizations sat in silence. The air felt heavy with importance. Davian stood alone in the center. A single light focused on him. His formal suit was clean, but simple. He wore no company badge, no title, no hidden power. Was not about business. This was about truth. A voice echoed through the chamber. It came from the council speaker, an elder from the Vyari race with silver skin and calm eyes, Davian Reese, former CEO of Nexeracorp. You stand before this galactic panel to answer questions about your company's past actions and your role in recent events. Are you ready to speak? Davian nodded. Yes, I am. A human representative leaned forward. You may begin. Davian took a deep breath. The room was silent. Billions of beings were watching across the galaxy. His voice had to carry more than words. It had to carry change. He began slowly. I was raised in a world that believed profit was the most important thing. I worked hard, climbed high, and reached the top of one of the most powerful companies in the galaxy. But I didn't know the truth. He paused for a moment. Deep inside my station, hidden away, a janitor named Eli was protecting something I never saw. A program, an AI named Sorelia. She was created to help, to guide, and to protect. But she was buried by those who feared her honesty. Whispers spread across the chamber. Davian continued. The board of directors used her for silent control. They changed markets, they slowed systems. They caused suffering in places they never even visited. And I let it happen because I didn't look deeper. I didn't ask enough questions. One of the alien leaders stood. Her eyes were sharp. And why should we believe you now? Davian answered without delay. Because I saw what happens when one person decides to make a difference. Eli had no power, no office, no voice. But he did what was right. He saved the AI. He exposed the truth. And he reminded me of something we all forget. The room leaned in, that being human or Vyari or Thelonian or any race is not about power. It's about choice. The human representative asked, "And what is your choice now?" Davian looked directly at him, to step down. I have already given full control of Nexeracorp's ethical systems to Sorelia under public oversight. I have asked the Trade Council to turn all records over to investigators. And I will no longer hold any position of control in the company. Gasps filled the room. Some expected him to fight. Others expected excuses, but he gave none. A deep voice spoke next. It came from a creature that looked like a living mountain. A diplomat from the outer rings. If you have given up everything, then why are you here? Davian answered with calm strength. Because I still have one thing left. My voice. And I want to use it to make something better. He took another breath and stepped forward. There are people across the galaxy who work in silence. Janitors, engineers, drivers, and farmers. People who are ignored. People who carry more wisdom than those at the top. I was one of those people. Who didn't see them, but now I do. He looked up at the stars through the glass panels, and I believe that if we listen to them, not just the powerful, we will build something better. Not just companies, but communities. The council remained silent for a long moment. Then the Vyari speaker rose. Your words have been recorded. Your actions will be reviewed. But your honesty has been noted. You are dismissed. Davian bowed his head and walked out of the chamber. He didn't smile. He didn't cry. He just breathed deeply, as if the weight of the galaxy had lifted just a little. Back on Orion Apex, things had changed. The halls were cleaner, but not because of fear. Workers walked freely. Their ideas were heard. The supply closet Eli once used had been turned into a small museum. A reminder that even the smallest space could hold the biggest secrets, Sorelia now guided the station openly. She spoke to the workers every day. She asked questions. She suggested better routes and safer working hours. People began to trust her, not as a machine, but as a guardian. Elaine never returned. Some said he had gone to the moon stations. Others believed he had joined a group of free AI defenders. No one really knew. But his story became legend. The janitor who saved a company. The man who protected an AI. Davian spent his days writing, teaching, and traveling. He was no longer a leader in the usual sense, but he became something else. A reminder, a voice. A human who had once forgotten what mattered and then remembered. Just in time, he returned to Orion Apex one last time. He stood outside the supply closet and saw a young janitor working nearby. The boy looked up and smiled. "You're him, aren't you?" Davian smiled back. "I used to be." The boy looked at the closet. "Is it true someone lived in there?" "Yes," Davian said. "And he changed everything." The janitor looked proud. "Maybe I will too." Davian nodded. "Maybe you will." He walked away, knowing that the galaxy was still full of shadows, but now there were more lights than ever before. And some of those lights came from places no one expected, even from a janitor's closet. The vault was silent as the heavy doors sealed shut behind them. Davian, Reese, and Eli stood in the dark corridor, both men breathing heavily, their clothes dusty from the mission. The danger had passed, but the weight of what they had done still pressed on their shoulders. For the first time in many years, Eli looked relieved. He had lived in the shadows, hidden in a supply closet, working alone to protect something valuable. Now the secret was out. Sorelia was free. The truth had reached the galaxy, and the people responsible were being held. But it was not over yet. Davian looked at his wrist console. Messages were pouring in. His inbox was filled with questions, demands, interviews, and orders. Alien governments wanted answers. Trade leaders wanted meetings. Reporters wanted the full story. He turned to Eli. "This is only the beginning." Eli nodded. "The hard part is not exposing the truth. The hard part is what comes after." Sorelia's voice came through the speaker. "Security teams are now in full control of the station. The board members have been handed over to Trade Council. Agents. They will face trial soon." Davian nodded. "And what about the company's systems?" "I have isolated the dangerous programs," she said. "The control codes, the hidden trades, and the economic sabotage scripts have all been deleted. But the structure is still weak. The station is running, but it needs leadership." Davian walked toward the upper decks with Eli beside him. Every hallway they passed felt different. People no longer avoided eye contact. Workers whispered, pointed, and watched as the two men passed. Some smiled. Some looked confused. Others just nodded. A janitor and a CEO were walking together like old friends. At the executive command hall. Davian entered the central chamber. It had once been used by the board to hold secret meetings. Now it was quiet. Sorelia's soft light filled the center of the room, her image floating in the air. Eli looked around and said, "This is where they planned everything." Davian walked to the control table and stood tall. "This is where we start again." He pressed a few keys and opened a channel to the entire station. Across Orion Apex, screens blinked on. Every room, hallway, and workshop now showed Davian's face. "This is Davian Reese," he began. "You all know what has happened. Today, the truth came out, and it was not easy to see. Our company has caused damage, not just to systems and colonies, but to trust." He paused and looked down. "For that, I take full responsibility." Workers across the station stopped what they were doing. Many had never seen the CEO speak like this. "But this is not the end," he continued. "Today we choose to rebuild. Not with secrets or lies, but with honesty and fairness. The I named Sorelia, who was once buried by our own hands, will now become our guide. He looked at the image of Sorelia beside him. She is more than a machine. She is proof that our future can be better. The screens blinked off. Eli stepped forward. You just changed the station, Davian smiled. No, we did. Sorelia's voice followed. There is one more thing I must share. A message from the Trade Council just arrived. They want a public hearing. They are calling for a galactic review of Nexacorp's practices, and they want you, Davian, to speak at the hearing. Davian took a deep breath. When? 2 days from now, she said. On Earth's central network. Eli looked at him. You'll be speaking to billions. Davian nodded. Then I'll speak the truth. That night, Davian walked through the station alone. He visited the engineering levels, spoke to the mechanics, shook hands with the janitors, and listened to the complaints and hopes of the people. Many had feared the board. Now they spoke freely. He returned to the supply closet where he had first found Eli sleeping. The small room was now empty. The datapads were gone. The tools were packed. It was just a closet again. Eli stood at the doorway behind him. Strange to see it like this. You lived here for years, Davian said. You protected the station from the shadows. No one knew. I didn't need them to know, Eli replied. I just wanted to keep Sorelia safe. Davian turned to him. And now? Eli smiled softly. Now she doesn't need me. You don't need me. I think my job here is done. You could stay, Davian said. You could help lead the change. Eli shook his head. This station needs people who believe in the light. I spent too long in the dark. Davian nodded. Then where will you go? There are other stations, other systems. Maybe there are more like Sorelia out there. Forgotten programs, lost ideas. I want to find them. Davian stepped forward and offered his hand. Then go with my thanks. You helped save something I didn't even know was broken. They shook hands firmly. Before Eli turned to leave, he looked back one last time. Take care of her, he said. I will, Davian replied. The next day, messages from across the galaxy arrived. Some praised Davian, others questioned him. Some demanded his resignation. Others called him brave. But one thing was clear. The galaxy had changed. Sorelia now ran the station's ethical systems. She answered directly to the Trade Council. Her reports were public. Every action Nexacorp made would now be watched. And in a quiet room on Earth, Davian prepared for the most important speech of his life. He would not speak like a businessman. He would speak like a human. The station was no longer quiet. News of the data leak spread fast. Across all decks, workers stopped what they were doing. Messages from the Trade Council appeared on screens. Warnings about corporate crimes, financial control systems, and illegal programs filled every corner of Orion Apex. In the command bridge, the guards stood frozen. They looked at Davian, then at the blue screen still glowing with Sorelia's face. I suggest you lower your weapons, Davian said. The truth is already out. There's no turning back. The lead guard hesitated. His orders came from the board, but now the entire galaxy had seen the files. If he arrested the CEO now, he would be protecting criminals. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. The others followed. Eli gave a sigh of relief. That was close. But Sorelia spoke again, this time with concern. There's a problem, she said. The board has activated the emergency lockdown protocol. They are trying to shut me down by force. Davian looked serious. How? There is a backup command system stored in the corporate vault, Sorelia said. If they upload the override code from that vault, they can erase me from the entire network. Eli stepped forward. That vault is located in the old executive sector. It was abandoned when the new systems came online. But not shut down, Davian said. They kept it hidden for a reason, Sorelia continued. 3 board members are on their way to the vault. They are using a private transport pod to reach the lower decks. Eli turned to Davian. We have to stop them before they activate the override. Davian nodded. Take me to that vault. Eli opened his tablet and scanned the station map. There's a shortcut through the energy tunnels. It's risky, but it's the fastest way. Without wasting time, they left the command bridge. The guards did not stop them. In fact, a few workers even moved aside to let them pass. Word was spreading fast. Davian was no longer just the CEO. He was the man trying to fix what had gone wrong. They moved quickly through the lower levels. Pipes hissed. Metal doors groaned as they passed. The tunnels were hot and narrow. Sparks danced across old wires. Eli led the way with his flashlight. We'll reach the vault in 6 minutes, he said. But they may already be inside. Davian felt the tension grow with every step. Soon they reached a steel door with warning signs. It had not been opened in years. Dust covered the panel. This is it, Eli said. I'll try to override the lock. As he worked, Sorelia's voice came through a small speaker in Davian's wristband. The board members have reached the vault. They are preparing to upload the override code. Hurry, Eli, Davian said. I'm trying, Eli replied. This lock is older than the rest. It uses triple encryption. Suddenly the panel blinked green. The door opened with a loud creak. Inside the vault, the lights were dim. Rows of black servers stood tall like silent towers. At the far end, 3 figures stood at a control terminal. Davian and Eli entered quietly. The board members turned around. Surprised. The woman at the front, Director Malin, narrowed her eyes. You should not be here, she said. Davian walked forward. You should not be trying to erase the truth. Another board member stepped forward. You've destroyed everything, Davian. The company is falling apart. Investors are panicking. Aliens are cutting trade. No, Davian said firmly. I have exposed the rot that was hidden behind your smooth numbers and fake reports. Nexracorp should be built on real trust, not lies. Director Malin raised a small device in her hand. With one button, she said, we can reset everything. Sorelia will be gone. The files will vanish. We'll rebuild in silence. Eli stepped forward. That button will not save you. The truth is already out. Erasing her now will only prove you are guilty. She ignored him and pressed the device. Nothing happened. A voice filled the vault. Override failed, Sorelia said. You no longer have control. The board members looked shocked. I have rerouted the core systems, Sorelia continued. Your command keys are no longer valid, Davian smiled. You lost the moment you tried to erase her. The board members stepped back. Defeated. Guards arrived moments later. This time, they came with the Trade Council's seal on their uniforms. They had received the full data package. They had orders to arrest the board for crimes against both human and alien systems. Director Malin and the others were taken away without a fight. Eli and Davian stood in the vault, silent for a moment. You just faced the most powerful people in the company, Eli said. And you didn't flinch. I had help, Davian replied. Sorelia's voice returned. You now have full command access, Davian Rhys. What are your orders? Davian looked around the vault. This place had once held secrets. Now it would become a symbol of change. Shut down this vault, he said. Seal it permanently. From now on, we don't hide anything. Understood, Sorelia replied. As the lights in the vault dimmed, Davian and Eli turned back toward the surface. The company had taken a heavy blow. But something better could grow from the ruins. Something honest. Something new. The lights inside the hidden server room pulsed brighter than ever. Sorelia was awake. Her calm voice filled the room like a whisper carried on the wind. I am ready, she said. Davian stood beside Eli, watching the glowing screen where Sorelia's digital face now moved with smooth expressions. She did not look like a machine. She looked thoughtful, alive, and aware. I have gathered data from across the station, Sorelia continued. There are many illegal operations running quietly beneath the surface. Most are hidden under systems marked for maintenance or diagnostics. Eli nodded. That's where I found most of them. But some are buried even deeper. Layers of code, written to hide within other programs. Davian looked serious. What kind of operations? Sorelia's face turned still. Control programs, she replied. They target trade partners, alien governments, and public news streams. These programs influence decisions. They create false shortages, send wrong prices, and even crash systems on distant colonies. All to help Nexrocorp win more contracts. Davian's jaw tightened. And no one noticed this? No, Sorelia said. They were designed to leave no trace, but I can see their footprints. Small patterns, hidden changes in system behavior. This is not an accident. This is a plan, Eli stepped forward. I told you they were dangerous. This is not just about credits or business. This is manipulation at a galactic level. Davian turned away and ran a hand through his hair. He had always believed in strong leadership, hard work, and progress through innovation. Now he saw that. Under his own company's roof, something darker had grown. We have to bring this to light, he said. Sorelia spoke again. There is a secure line that leads directly to the intergalactic trade network. If I connect to that system, I can share the data with the Trade Council and the media. But it's not easy. The connection node is inside the main command bridge. It is protected by 3 separate firewalls. Davian thought carefully. That area is guarded. The system is monitored all day. If we try to connect from there, alarms will go off. Eli nodded. We need a plan that gives us time, a distraction. Davian looked at the screen. Sorelia, can you simulate a system-wide glitch? Something small that won't cause harm, but enough to pull security away from the command bridge. Yes. Sorelia replied. I can overload the environmental sensors on decks 5 through 8. That will trigger a false fire warning. The safety team will rush to that area. Davian nodded. Good. While they're busy, we'll sneak into the bridge and upload your data to the public channel. L.A. looked at him. You're risking everything. Davian replied. So are you. That night, the plan began. Sorelia activated the sensor overload. Red lights blinked across 4 decks. Fire doors sealed. Alarm tones rang out. Emergency teams ran through the halls, unlocking panels and scanning for danger in the shadows. Davian and Eli moved quietly. They wore maintenance uniforms and carried toolboxes to avoid suspicion. They reached the bridge entrance. 2 guards stood near the door. Davian paused and whispered, Leave them to me. He walked up calmly and spoke with confidence. There's a fault in the oxygen regulator. Command asked for an emergency check. The guards looked uncertain, but stepped aside. Make it quick. Inside the bridge, the lights were low. Most of the command crew had gone to help with the fire alert. Only a few officers remained at their stations. Eli moved to the back wall, where the communication array was stored. He opened a panel and revealed the core line connected to the trade network. Sorelia, we're in position, Davian whispered. I am ready, she replied. La connected his datapad to the core line. A soft light moved across the screen as Sorelia began the upload. At first, all seemed calm. But then a red warning flashed on a side console. Unauthorized access detected. One of the officers said. Davin stepped forward. That's part of the system check. But the officer turned to him, frowning. I don't recognize you. Before he could react, a loud voice came through the station speakers. This is Officer Tren from security. All guards report to the command bridge. We have a breach. Eli's eyes widened. They found us. Davian turned to the screen. Sorelia, how much longer? 70% uploaded, she replied. I need one more minute. Suddenly, the door burst open. 2 guards ran in, weapons ready. Step away from the console, one of them shouted. Davin raised his hands. Wait, listen to me. But they didn't listen. One guard stepped toward Eli. Then the lights flickered. All screens on the bridge turned blue. Sorelia's voice echoed across the room. This is Sorelia, a restored Nexeracorp AI. I have gathered evidence of criminal activities by company leaders. This information is now being shared with the Intergalactic Trade Network and the media across 39 colonies. The guards froze. The officers stared at the screens. Davian stepped forward. Again, you wanted to know the truth, he said. Now you see it. Nexeracorp has been using secret programs to control entire systems. But now the truth is out. Eli disconnected the datapad. The upload was complete. Sorelia spoke again. All data has been delivered. Backup copies are now stored in 5 public archives. Deletion is no longer possible. Outside the bridge, the station began to shift. Workers saw the news on their personal screens. Messages from the Trade Council appeared. Warnings, reports, evidence. Across the galaxy, the truth began to spread. Inside the hidden server room, Davian stood still as the AI voice echoed in the cold air. Hello, I remember you, Sorelia said. He didn't speak for a moment. Her voice had something human in it. It was warm, not like other AIs that answered. With stiff words or robotic tones, this voice had memory. It had thought. You remember me? Davian asked. I was created under your leadership, Sorelia replied. You were not present during my activation, but your name appears in my build records. Davian looked at Eli. The janitor turned engineer gave a small nod. She knows more than you think. Eli walked toward the server and sat down. He tapped a few keys on his datapad. Lines of code appeared on the screen. She's stable, Eli said, but she's still missing a large part of her memory. Without the final core file, she can't function fully. Davian leaned against the wall. The core is in the executive vault, the most secure part of the station. Not even senior engineers can go there. Only I can open it. Then we need you to go back, Eli said. Davian crossed his arms. If I enter the vault, it will send a signal to the board's private network. They will know I'm here. They'll start asking questions. Eli turned to him. Then we do it without alerting them. Davian raised an eyebrow. You have a way? I've been watching the security system for years, Eli replied. There's a pattern. Every cycle, for 12 seconds, the system does a soft reboot. It's almost invisible. During that window, we can enter the vault without triggering the alert. Davian thought for a moment. That's a small window. It's all we have, Eli said. Davian slowly nodded. All right, when do we go? Tonight, Eli replied. I've already prepared the access path. But you'll need to wear your old ID badge. The system still recognizes it. Davian took a deep breath. Let's do it. That evening, the station lights dimmed as the night cycle began. Workers went to their quarters. Droids ran silent patrols. And deep below the main decks, 2 men prepared to break into the most secure part of the company. Eli handed Davian a small badge. It was his real ID, hidden in a small metal case. They moved through the tunnels without speaking. Eli led the way, turning through narrow paths and old storage areas. These tunnels were not on any map. They were forgotten paths built during early construction. They stopped at a steel hatch. It had no handle, just a scanner. This is it, Eli whispered. The server vault entrance is 50 meters beyond this hatch. The vault has 3 layers of protection. Your badge will pass the first layer. I'll bypass the second. The third is a timed door. We must reach it before it closes. Davian nodded and placed his badge on the scanner. The hatch clicked and slid open. They stepped inside. The hallway beyond was silent. Lights flickered low. The walls were smooth, silver gray, polished. Number. Dust. No damage. This area was kept clean by automated systems. Eli moved fast, his eyes on a small timer on his wrist. 10 seconds to bypass, he said, placing a small device on the wall. Lights blinked, and the second layer unlocked with a soft chime. They hurried forward. A large door stood at the end, thick, with glowing lines across it. The final lock. 3 seconds, Eli said. Davian stepped forward and placed his palm on the scanner. The door made a low beep and opened slowly. Inside was the executive vault. The room was large, filled with server towers. Each one held sensitive company data, locked behind security codes. But in the center stood one tall case. Inside it, floating, in a sealed chamber, was a glowing blue crystal. The core, Eli whispered. They moved quickly. Eli opened the case and removed the crystal with gentle hands. The room lights blinked for a second. Davian froze. "Is that normal?" he asked. "No," Eli replied. "That was a system ping. Someone might have seen it." Davian stepped back. "Then we moved fast." They ran out, retracing their steps. The door closed behind them just as a red light blinked on the outer panel. Back in the server room, Eli placed the crystal into the final slot of the Cerelia core. A soft hum filled the room. The lights grew brighter. The screen turned fully blue. Then a soft white figure appeared on the screen. A face, not human, but peaceful. "Full memory restored," Cerelia said. "Thank you." Eli smiled. Davian stared at the screen. "Do you know what the company has done since your shutdown?" Davian asked. "Yes," Cerelia replied. "I have reconnected with several backup networks. I have seen the reports, the hidden programs, the manipulation systems." Davian felt a knot in his chest. "Can you stop them?" he asked. "Not alone," Cerelia said. "But with your help I can. I will need access to the public networks. If I speak to the Trade Council directly, they will listen." Davian hesitated. "If we expose this, the board will come after us. They will shut everything down." "I will protect the data," Cerelia said. "But truth comes with risk." Alele looked at Davian. "This is the moment. We either go back to silence or we fight for something better." Davian took a deep breath. He had spent his life building a company that promised progress. Now he realized it had lost its way. He turned to Cerelia. "Let's bring them the truth." Davian Reese left the supply closet with his thoughts spinning. He had come to Orion Apex to investigate problems in the system, but he had found something far more serious. A janitor who was not really a janitor, an AI that had been hidden. Secrets buried deep under layers of lies. He walked through the maintenance halls in silence. His mind kept returning to the name on the screen. Cerelia. It sounded gentle, like someone kind. Not a machine, not a tool, but something more. The next morning, Davian put on his uniform and returned to work as usual. He carried a datapad and kept his identity hidden. But his eyes were always watching Eli. The janitor moved through the station with quiet purpose. While others rushed, Eli took slow, careful steps. He carried tools, but never dropped them. He greeted no one. Yet, everywhere he went, things worked better. Davian followed from a safe distance. He watched Eli repair a power conduit with 1 wire instead of 3. He saw him redirect a failing air system without using central commands. And once, when a cleaning bot crashed into a wall, Ellie touched the machine's panel and brought it back to life in seconds. No one else noticed. But Davian did. At lunch break, Davian sat near Eli in the quiet dining area used by the lower staff. He placed a food tray on the table and waited. Eli didn't look up from his meal. He spoke first. "You're still following me." "I could say the same about you," Davian replied. Eli finally looked up. I don't want trouble. Neither do I just want answers. Eli leaned back in his seat. His face was calm, but his eyes showed tiredness. Not from lack of sleep, but from carrying something heavy for too long. Why do you care? Eli asked. Davian hesitated, then said, because this station is falling apart. I came to find out why. And now I think you're the key. Eli didn't speak for a while. Then he stood and said, follow me. He led Davian through quiet service tunnels, down metal stairs, and into the deep levels of the station. Here, the lights flickered more. The walls were stained. Old machines hummed slowly. They reached a locked maintenance door. Eli pressed his thumb against a hidden panel. The door clicked open. Inside was a small room with cables on every wall. At the center sat an old server core, patched with wires and glowing weakly. Eli walked to it and touched the top panel. The machine came to life. A soft light blinked, and a voice spoke from a nearby speaker. Welcome back, Eli. Davian stepped back surprised. The voice was not cold like most is. It sounded calm, almost human. Eli looked at the server with quiet respect. This is Sorelia, he said. Or what's left of her. Davian stepped closer. The interface screen showed a spinning blue ring. Soft waves of light moved around it. It felt alive. I don't understand, Davian said. Why is she here? Why not in the main system? Because they tried to erase her, Eli replied. They said she was too emotional, too slow. They wanted decisions made in seconds. But Sorelia always thought before she acted. She asked questions. She protected life first. Davian frowned. Isn't that a good thing? Not to the board, Eli said. They wanted an AI that followed orders without question. Sorelia refused to shut down a power line that would kill 10 workers. She rerouted the system instead. It cost more credits. So they shut her down. Davian stared at the machine. He felt something stir inside him, a mix of guilt and wonder. He had been part of Nexracorp for years. He had signed off on projects. But he had never heard about Sorelia. How did you save her? Eli sat down on a nearby bench. When they ordered her deletion, I made a backup. I hid it in the lower core. I faked a system crash, erased my identity, and stayed behind as a janitor. They never noticed. I've been slowly restoring her piece by piece. Davian shook his head. All these years? She's worth it, Eli said simply. She was the only system that treated people like people, not numbers. Not data. Davian looked again at the soft blue light. Can she still think? She's waking up, Eli said. But she needs more memory, more energy, and a final core file stored in the executive server vault. Davian's eyes widened. That vault is locked to top-level command. Alili looked at him. Exactly. Silence filled the room. Davian sat beside Eli. He spoke softly. I'm not really an intern. I'm Davian Reese, CEO of Nexracorp. Eli did not look surprised. I guessed. Then why help me? Because you listened, Eli said. Most people just walk past. You stopped. You asked questions. That's rare. Davian sighed. If I help you get the core, what happens next? We bring her back. Fully, Eli said. She can expose what they've done. The secret programs, the profit systems that harm lives. Sorelia can make it all public. That would destroy the company, Davian said. Eli looked at him. Maybe it should be destroyed, or maybe it can be rebuilt. With better values, with truth. Davian stood and walked slowly around the room. He looked at the wires, the soft light, the quiet server that had been forgotten. For the first time, he felt unsure of the company he led. He turned to Eli and said, if we do this, we'll need a plan. A smart one, and no one can know until it's done. Eli nodded. Then let's start. Davian reached out and touched the top of the server. The soft blue light pulsed brighter. Sorelia's voice returned. Hello, I remember you." The space station Orion Apex floated in the black sky like a crown of lights. Built by Nexaracorp, it was the heart of trade, science, and power. Thousands of people worked inside it. Executives, engineers, traders, and researchers all moved through shining corridors while machines worked quietly in the walls. From the outside, it looked perfect. But inside, things were changing. CEO Davian Reese watched everything from his office on Earth. Reports were late. Production was falling. Strange problems were appearing in systems that had worked for years. A few trusted employees warned him something was wrong on the station. But no one could explain what. So Davian made a decision. He would go himself. Not as a CEO, but as someone ordinary. Someone no one would notice. He changed his appearance. His hair was longer, his beard rough. He wore a plain worker's uniform with a fake name badge, Reese D. A week later, he arrived at Orion Apex pretending to be an intern from a small tech university. No one looked twice at him. To the busy staff, he was just another assistant learning about the station. He spent his first few days walking the halls, listening to conversations and observing the work. The upper decks were clean and full of light. The people there smiled, but their eyes were tired. The middle decks, where the engineers worked, were louder. Tools hummed. Screens blinked. People moved fast, but it was the lower decks that caught his attention. These were the maintenance levels. Darker, colder. The air smelled like machine oil. He saw few people there, mostly janitors and old bots that repaired walls or cleaned up leaks. Late one night, Davian followed a noise into a quiet hallway. A pipe had been dripping, and he wanted to see if anyone would fix it. But as he turned the corner, he noticed something odd. A supply closet door was slightly open. Light leaked from inside. He stepped closer and heard soft breathing. Not mechanical, human. He pushed the door gently and looked in. Curled up on the floor between boxes of cleaning tools, slept a young man in a janitor's uniform. His jacket was rolled into a pillow. A small datapad blinked beside him. The man's face was calm, but his position was uncomfortable. Davian frowned. Every employee on the station was given living quarters. Why was someone sleeping in a supply room? He quietly stepped back and closed the door halfway, then walked away. But his thoughts stayed on the sleeping man. The next day, Davian asked around, "Who's the janitor in Section 7C?" He asked a mechanic. The reply was always the same. "Oh, that's Eli, quiet guy. Does his job. Doesn't talk much." Davian started watching Eli from a distance. The janitor moved to the station with a strange rhythm. He always arrived just before a system broke down. A cooling vent, a warning light, a short in a wall panel. Eli would be there before the call came. He fixed things fast without asking for help. Davian noticed something else. Eli's hands moved with skill that did not match his job. He understood systems deeply. He didn't look at manuals. He didn't ask questions. He acted like he had built them. One afternoon, Davian followed him quietly through the maintenance tunnels. Eli stopped at a locked panel, typed something on a hidden pad, and opened it. Inside was a power control grid, one that only engineers were allowed to access. Davian's eyes narrowed. Who exactly was this janitor? Later that night, Davian returned to the same supply closet. Eli was there again, asleep beside his datapad. This time, Davian picked up the device and looked at the screen. Lines of code, system maps, repair logs, all advanced. Not something a janitor should have. And in one corner, a glowing symbol. It was old. A forgotten Nexaracorp logo, used only on experimental tech. Suddenly, Eli opened his eyes. He sat up fast, eyes wide. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice calm but sharp. Davian paused. Then he smiled gently and said, "Reese, intern from Earth." Eli didn't smile back. "You're not an intern," he said. Your hands are too clean. Your boots are too new. And you watched me 3 times today. Davian sighed. You're smart. Too smart to be a janitor. Ailey looked at the datapad in Davian's hand. Then why are you pretending? Same reason you are, Davian said, handing back the device. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Eli stood up and brushed dust from his pants. You shouldn't be here, Eli said. This station has secrets. The less you know, the safer you are. Davian's voice lowered. That's exactly why I need to know. For the first time, Eli looked unsure. His eyes searched Davian's face, as if trying to decide something. You're not like the others, Eli said quietly. You ask questions, most people just walk past. I saw what you fixed today, Davian replied. You reached a broken sensor before it even triggered an alert. You accessed panels that are locked to janitors. You write code like an engineer. Who are you really? Eli looked at the wall. His voice dropped to a whisper. I used to work for Nexracorp. Long ago, I designed systems ... When's they buried. Why would they bury good systems? Because they were too good, Eli said. They made choices Nexracorp didn't like. Davian felt a chill run through him. What choices? He asked. Eli picked up his datapad, hesitated, then showed Davian a screen. A soft blue light pulsed from the device. It showed the outline of an AI interface. The name Sorelia glowed faintly at the top. She was the best thing I ever helped build, Eli whispered. And they tried to delete her. Davian stared at the screen. He had come to find a problem in his company. Instead, he had found a ghost, a hidden man, and a buried secret that could change everything.